I believe Christian women can be sexy. You're gonna have to rock with me throughout the remainder of this video to see why. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amanda Pittman and I talk about faith, confidence, and lifestyle from a Christian woman's perspective. Today I'm gonna be talking about Christian women and sex appeal. Can Christian women be sexy? The first reason why I believe Christian women can be sexy is because God made humankind sexy. In Genesis 1, starting in verse 26, it says, "Then God said, let us make human beings in our image to be like us." So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and govern it. Reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and all the animals that scurry along the ground." And then if we skip down to verse 31, it says this, "Then God looked over all he had made, and he saw that it was very good." Now this was the sixth day, the final day of creation before God rested on the seventh day. And he didn't just call it good, he called it very good. He made male and female in his image, made them with genitals and all. He said, "Be fruitful and multiply." He made their sexuality as a part of their being, not apart from our sexuality, but our sexuality is embedded within who we are as humankind. He made the female body to be appealing to the male body, and he made the male body to be appealing to the female body. And that in of itself will be sexy to some people. Now you may be wondering, well, Amanda, how do you define sexy? Well, I went to the dictionary, okay? And the dictionary online said, sexy means to be sexually attractive or exciting or appealing. Eve was exciting and appealing to Adam, and Adam was made to be exciting and appealing to Eve. That sexuality was embedded into their God-given design and their God-given identity. And there is nothing wrong. There is nothing inherently wrong about being made as a sexual being and a sexual creature. God called it very good. So this leads me to my second point. I believe that Christian women can be sexy because sexiness is subjective. A woman can be makeup free, covered from head to toe. Her hair is covered, ain't no skin showing, and somebody out there is still going to consider her sexy, whether it's a man or a woman. And this kind of gets to the heart of why I made this video. It's because I believe that beautiful women in particular, or women that others perceive to be beautiful, are oftentimes blamed for others' lust for them. I definitely believe that sexiness must be stewarded, and I'm going to have a whole section talking about that in this video. But independent of that, women cannot control other people's perception of them. They may have the power to influence it based on how they present themselves, but ultimately they cannot control it. Let me dive a little deeper. There's a difference between beauty and attraction. I can acknowledge that another woman is beautiful without being attracted to her, because I'm not attracted to women. In the same way, I can notice that another man is handsome, he has good-looking features, but not be attracted to him. And in the same way, there's still a difference between attraction and lust. When a couple is not even engaged yet, they're not married yet, but let's say they're in the dating stage, this couple is attracted to one another. At least I would hope they are, okay? I want to be attracted to the person I'm dating because I'm married to my husband. I'm very much so attracted to him. But when me and him were dating, there was this attraction, but we still had to battle lust. We had to make sure that it did not lead to lust. And there were many times in which we are able to be attracted to one another without it leading to lust. Attraction is being drawn to someone and appreciating them for their beauty, for their intellect, for their charisma, for all these different things, including their outward appearance. But lust is an intentional decision to view someone in a sexual light and to sexualize them. Noticing beauty is not a sin, but being lustful, having a lustful intent is. And that kind of gets back to the heart of this video. I believe so often we punish other women for what they're wearing or how beautiful they are, rather than looking inward. Hey, am I sexualizing this woman? If a man is trying to control what another woman is wearing or how she's presenting herself, she may or may not have intent to be provocative or suggestive or seductive. She may or may not. We do not know her heart. What we can do is check ourselves. That man can check himself and say, hey, am I sexualizing her? And a woman can check herself and say, hey, am I sexualizing this woman? Is it because I perceive her to be sexy? Is it because I perceive her to be beautiful? Is it because I perceive her to be attractive? Am I looking at another sister through the male gaze and then ascribing intent to her actions? Am I doing that? I think it's important that we look inwardly rather than looking outwardly. The scripture says, man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. We cannot control what is always in front of us. We have some degree of control, but very little in the grand scheme of things. But what we can control is how we respond. This leads me to Matthew 5, where Jesus is telling the Sermon on the Mount. And in the Sermon on the Mount, he is really describing the upside down kingdom, as some people will describe it. And Jesus said he doesn't come to abolish the law, but his teachings are coming to fulfill the law. So he takes the standard of the law and then he raises it another level. He takes it up a notch to show us the sin in our own hearts and to show us his true standard of righteousness. And then it says in Matthew 5:27 about lust. And Jesus is addressing the men. Let's talk about it. You have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and cast it from you. For it is more profitable for you that one of your members perish than your whole body be cast into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and cast it from you. For it is more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for your whole body to be cast into hell. Jesus was addressing the men. Is this because lust is only a male issue? No. But what Jesus does understand is that culturally, men were the ones who abused sexuality. And at the heart of it, at the core of it, isn't adultery. It isn't the fruit of it. It's the root. And the root is lust. That's where it begins. If you start to objectify someone else, that's when you degrade their humanity. And it's not consensual. Your lust for someone else is against their own will. And sometimes it could be a private or a secret sin that goes on in our own heads, in our own hearts, and we think nobody's harmed. But they are harmed because it's perpetuating this sexualized idea that we can reduce humans down to how they can increase pleasure in our own lives. And it is not consensual. And the enemy's scheme and the enemy's plan is to get men to shape culture so that they sexualize women in their own eyes and in their own hearts, which perpetuates this horrible industry of porn, this horrible industry of capitalizing on women's insecurities, and then also to shape women's view of women so that we're pitted against one another and we still only see one another through their sexuality. And so women ourselves are degrading other women. Women ourselves are only seeing women through the lens of their sexuality. And so in ushering in the kingdom of heaven, Jesus set a new standard that keeps women safe. For centuries, women had been so unsafe at the hands of men. Look at what King David did. Women have been perpetually unsafe because they've been objectified and degraded and reduced down to their sexuality. And he does this not by condemning women for their God-given attractive qualities, but he does this by making men responsible for their own lust, for their own heart posture. And so sexiness is subjective. Some people will think, man, this person is so good looking, covered head from toe. And then somebody can be barely wearing any clothes and they're just like, it's not doing it for me. Sexiness is subjective. And so we cannot demonize women for being made in the image of God and being naturally beautiful and having the bodies that they do, having the faces that they do, or even making themselves beautiful, which is in the feminine nature. But what we can do is check our hearts for the times that we're lusting or we're sexualizing or we're demonizing and ascribing intent when we do not know their hearts. Now, I'm going to pause and say this. I am not being permissive for those who are promiscuous. I'm simply challenging us to take responsibility rather than blame shifting and making our own issues someone else's issue. I'm going to get there, but you're going to have to keep rocking with me, okay? The third reason why I believe Christian women can be sexy is because sexiness is celebrated in the Bible. There is an entire book of the Bible called Song of Songs, meaning kind of like King of Kings or Lord of Lords, like the best of the best, the cream of the crop. So this is the Song of Songs. That's how highly regarded it is. This entire book is dedicated to exploring and celebrating sexual desire and sexual expression and sexual attraction between two unmarried lovers. Song of Songs is written as a collection of poems. It's not meant to be dissected or taken apart or, psychoanalyzed, but more so to be regarded and enjoyed as love poetry. It's poetic and not academic. It is quite different than the rest of the books of the Bible. However, God included it within the books of the Bible. We can't just push it to the side, blush and get embarrassed by it and say, oh, this has no real life application. God included it within our Bible for a reason. Now, the main voice within Song of Songs is the beloved, and the beloved is an unmarried woman. And this poetry shifts back and forth between the female voice and the male voice, and the female voice and the male voice. And there's this constant theme of seeking and finding, chasing and attaining. It's consistently exploring the themes of longing and desire and pursuit. Another very clear, repeated theme in this is the couple's sexual attraction and desire for one another. Let's not gloss over that. Many times they'll pause to describe one another in these elaborate metaphors. Some people say, well, you can only be sexy within the confines of marriage. Hey, these people, they recognize, I like what I see. I like what I see now. And they're not pretending like they don't see it. These poems would not be written at all or published within our Bible, the Old Testament, if the woman were deemed guilty for being beautiful, if the woman were deemed guilty for being sexually attractive. Now, some of y'all are going to be thinking, Amanda, why are you saying this? You're going to give women the permission to be seductresses and go out and just be ridiculous and provocative. No, I'm not. I am simply giving Christian women the permission to be beautiful as God designed them to be. I'm going to show you an example from Song of Songs why I believe Christian women have the right to be beautiful, and I think it's a quite strong argument, okay? So in Song of Songs, chapter 7, verses 1 through 10, this is the man affirming the beloved. He's affirming her qualities, and I want you to pay really close attention to the words, okay? So starting in verse 1, it says this, "How beautiful are your sandaled feet, princess. The curves of your thighs are like jewelry, the handiwork of a master. Your neck is like a tower of ivory, your eyes like pools of Heshbon by Bath Rabbim's gate. Your nose is like the tower of Lebanon looking toward Damascus. Your head crowns you like Mount Carmel, the hair of your head like purple cloth. A king could be held captive in your tresses. How beautiful you are, and how pleasant, my love, with such delights. Your statue is like a palm tree. Your breasts are clusters of fruit. I said, I will climb the palm tree and take hold of its fruit. May your breasts be like clusters of grapes, and the fragrance of your breath like apricots. Your mouth is like fine wine, flowing smoothly for my love, gliding past my lips and teeth. So at the very end, it shifts to the woman's voice, and she said, I am my love's, and his desire is for me. Now, I found something really interesting about this passage of scripture, because all of the things that the man describes loving about the beloved are her unchangeable features. He didn't say anything about the clothes that she's wearing. He didn't say anything about the makeup on her face. He described her unchangeable features. And not all of these were innately sexual features. Let's leave the thighs aside, let's leave the breasts aside, and let's look at these more platonic features. She cannot change the fact that she has a desirable neck or a beautiful nose that he described, or that her mouth is beautiful, or that her stature is beautiful, or that her hair is beautiful. This is simply who she is. And he is sexually attracted to who she is. She cannot change these features. And so that's another reason why I think we have to be so careful about demonizing beauty, because some women, people have been putting heaps and mounds of expectation on them because they are beautiful, and it's outside of their control. They're just built good, okay? They just have a beautiful face. They just got all the good genes. And it's so important that we as women do not become jealous or envious or insecure around her. And it's so important that as men, we do not blame her for her God-given features. This was just built into and woven into her humanity. And she cannot rid herself of her smile, of her neck, of her stature. This is who she is. And I really like Song of Songs, chapter 6, starting in verse 1. So the younger women are saying this about the beloved. They say, "Where has your love gone, most beautiful of women? Which way has he turned? We will seek him with you." I love that these younger women call her most beautiful of women. I really go out of my way to affirm other women and say, you are just absolutely beautiful. You're stunning. You are gorgeous. Because I think as women, if we get into this place where we cannot affirm another woman around us, then we start to see them as a threat. We start to see them as competition. And here, the younger women have no problem saying most beautiful of women and celebrating the beauty that God placed inside of her. And the thing is this, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. There are going to be people in our lives that we regard as exceptionally attractive, whether or not they intentionally sexualize themselves. And those people, it's so important that we care for them and treat them as human beings, because they are human beings aside from their sexuality. Many times religious people will condemn and punish naturally or exceptionally beautiful women. In fact, I was just watching this video on YouTube of a woman who was leading worship. And there's a woman who is doing a voiceover of her. And she's saying this woman needs to repent. She is lascivious, or whatever the word is. And she was just saying that this woman is too sexy. She was literally saying she's too sexy. And I'm looking at the video and I'm thinking to myself, this woman is wearing like a checkered jumpsuit, like completely covered from head to toe. I personally don't find this outfit inappropriate. And I personally do not see or regard this woman as sexy or as provocative or as promiscuous. She's literally worshiping the Lord. But that woman perceives her as sexy and places intent on her and condemns her for simply just being who she is. And let's be honest, the woman in the video was well endowed. She had a bigger chest, a bigger backside, and women who have more of these, I guess, luscious features are often demonized for simply having the bodies that God gave them. Like, let's be honest. If you wear a low-cut top, but there's a woman who's flat-chested, and another low-cut top, and there's a woman who's like a G, most people are more likely to condemn the one with a G and never even address the double A, never even address her. They wouldn't even blink twice. And that's where it becomes unfair, because we're not ascribing the same standard, and it's based on our own perception. And it's also based on their own body type. As women, we have such naturally diverse body types, men too, but especially women. Our bodies have been so objectified and they're so diverse that the women who are more curvy or more well endowed, that get a little bit more attention, they have to be held to a higher standard without them being perceived as promiscuous, which I believe personally is unfair. If the standard is covered up to here for the G cup, then the standard needs to be covered up to here with the double A. At the end of the day, another woman's beauty is not their choice, but our lust for them or us sexualizing them is our own choice. And so we have a responsibility there. So I've gone deep into why Christian women can be sexy, because Christian women are simply women. You see my argument there, and I can talk even longer, but you see the argument. So this leads me to my final conclusion. Women are not devoid of all responsibility. Sexiness must be stewarded. That's my conclusion. Sexiness must be stewarded. When women understand the power that they can have over men or women with their own bodies, with their own looks, with their own sexuality, and they intentionally use it to get a specific outcome, that's when it becomes manipulation. That's when it becomes seduction. That's when it becomes provocative and promiscuous. And those things are all intentional decisions in hopes that someone else will lust after you, or in hopes that someone else would give you what you want based on your actions. It says this in Proverbs 6, verses 24 through 26. It says, "Keep you from the evil woman, from the flattering tongue of a seductress. Do not lust after her beauty in your heart, nor let her allure you with her eyelids. For by means of a harlot, a man is reduced to a crust of bread, and an adulteress will prey upon his precious life." Even in this proverb, it's still a warning to the man. Don't get me wrong, it's still a warning to the man, but there is an active thing that this seductress, that this adulteress is doing. So to be seductive means to entice someone into sexual activity. And to entice means to attract or to tempt by offering something pleasurable. So being seen as sexy by someone is out of your control. However, being seductive is fully within the Christian woman's control. And the difference is intent. This adulteress that's outlined in Proverbs, she was a flatterer. She was flattering the man with her lips. When you flatter, it opens up a door to where somebody else says, "Oh, I'm desired, I'm wanted." And it also sends the message, she's available. And so it's very important as Christian women that we steward our words wisely, that we can compliment someone without flattering them. And I think it's important that we be really mindful about how we compliment men. Saying, "Oh, girl, you look so good. You look amazing. Girl, you fine. Like, that's how we'll compliment our girlfriends. That's not the type of way you want to compliment a guy, unless you want to send that message. And you do not want to send that message, okay? So flattery is a big one. Another big one is pursuit. So there's an intent in your heart that you cannot see outwardly, but pursuit is evidence of that intention in your heart. It says in Proverbs 7, "She was loud and rebellious. Her feet would not stay at home. At times she was outside, at times in the open square, lurking at every corner." Proverbs 7 just said she's for the streets, okay? So if you're intentionally placing yourself where you can get more attention, to where you could be seen more, to where you can attract attention and make yourself more available. If you are rebellious at home and you're not staying at home, whether you're single or married, if you're doing this in order to garner attention through your sexuality, that is intent that leads to pursuit. And that leads to seduction and being provocative and being fully outside of the will of God and not properly stewarding the sexiness that God gave you. Another thing is just simply availability, being too available to the outside. Maybe you're offering your body for fantasy. You may be thinking to yourself, "I am going to post this photo and I'm going to pose in a certain way that I want it to emphasize the way that I'm shaped and the way that I'm built, because I want to garner that attention and I want somebody else to lust after me." Or this could be literally creating pornographic images or creating pornographic content or material online. Now, you can't control if someone else lusts after you if you're not doing anything that's explicitly sexual. However, you can control your intent. If you intentionally created something because you want to cause someone else to sin, because you want to entice someone, you want to get somebody thinking about you, you want the attention, that is when you really need to go to God and ask Him to check your heart and ask Him to bring you to a place of like freedom and healing and wholeness, to where you do not need this in order to be loved or validated or accepted. You are so much more than your looks. You are so much more than your body, and you're so much more than your sexuality. There are two other definitions I want to read to you. So many times we just throw around labels like provocative or promiscuous, but we have to actually look at what it means. To be provocative is arousing sexual desire or interest, especially deliberately. So you're being provocative if you are deliberately trying to arouse sexual interest. You are deliberately trying to do it with the way that you dance, or the way that you pose, or the way that you present yourself, or the clothes that you wear. If you are deliberately trying to do that, at that point you are becoming provocative. Now, we cannot always ascribe that intent. God can, and you can. So you have to always check your heart. What is my motive? What is my intent in this? Another word is promiscuous. Being promiscuous literally means having or involving many sexual partners, not restricted to one sexual partner or few sexual partners. So when you're becoming promiscuous, this is someone who is available to everyone or available to many people. Woman of God, you have so much worth. You have so much value. You are so much more than this stronghold in your life of needing validation and acceptance from multiple people. You can find that validation and acceptance in Christ and in your husband. You do not need to go seeking outside of that covenant with God or outside of that covenant with your husband in order to garner this sense of wholeness or value. You have worth, and you do not need sex to validate that. And maybe it's coming from a different place. Maybe it's coming from lust in your own heart, or maybe it's coming from a strong sexual desire. And in that, I just encourage you to take that to the Lord and ask Him for help. The Lord delights when you seek Him and you ask for help and you have the humility to say, God, this is the way I've done it before. This is the way I've always done it. This is the way that I am. This is the lust that I'm dealing with. This is the sexual drive that I'm dealing with. He delights when you take it to Him and ask Him to change you from the inside out. He'll also teach you how to reframe your desires and how to steward the desires that He has given you. And I also believe that the Lord can deliver you from ungodly desires that were never meant to be there in the first place. There are so many things that we pick up from culture, that we pick up from our previous partners, that we pick up from even abuse. And God wants to renew that and reframe that and heal you and deliver you and set you free. Okay, so the final thing I'll say is this. If you sexualize a woman, it's your responsibility. Whether you're sexualizing yourself or you're sexualizing someone else. It's your responsibility. If you're sexualizing yourself and you are being intentionally promiscuous, seductive, very immodest for your own goals, for your own desires, because there's something in your heart that needs to be healed, I encourage you, take that back to the Lord, submit it to Him, and He wants to heal you from the inside out so that you can find freedom and be everything that God has designed you to be. And if you've been sexualizing other women, whether you are a man or a woman, my advice to you would be the same. Take that back to the Lord and say, God, this is the lens through which I'm seeing the world. I've picked it up from culture. I've picked it up from my past. I've picked it up even from my humanity because I myself am a sexual being. Lord, teach me how to reframe this. Teach me how to see other women the way that you see them. Teach me how to see them as whole beings and not to dissect them or to even see them through, I don't even want to call it the male gaze, but through the devil's gaze. I want to see others the way that you've designed them to be. So reframe my perspective, renew my mind, even deliver me from porn. For those of you who are so bound to porn that you look at everybody this way, Lord, deliver me from these images. Clear it out, Lord. And give me the tools to remain free. Give me the accountability to remain free. His kingdom is one in which men and women can be safe in one another's presence. And women can be safe in one another's presence, where we can be celebrated, where we can be stewarded, and where we can love one another and honor one another the way that God has designed them. So in conclusion, can Christian women be sexy? Yes. However, sexiness needs to be stewarded, and it's our responsibility to manage how we view the world and how we present ourselves. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I would love to know, what do you think about this topic? Leave your comments below. And if there are any men who watch this video, I would love to know what this is like from the male perspective. How does this feel for you? I am very curious, would love for this to strike up some very interesting conversation. I just ask that you guys be very honoring of everyone in the comments, because this is such a sensitive topic and you never know the types of wounds that people are dealing with. I just encourage you to be sensitive and loving as you engage in dialogue. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure that you like, subscribe, leave a comment below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.